highly. It's a manual, and I made a game about vectors. So when you click play, you can see at the bottom right there's a little map which indicates the path that you will follow as your little vector cart. This map shows different points, which are all points of interest, which you will find on your journey. Your cart, which you use to race around, is basically just your velocity vector, which changes depending on your velocity. And so if you have no velocity, you are a null vector, like in the beginning, where your orientation can change, but you just don't have any magnitude, so nothing exists. If you press W on the keyboard, you will start accelerating, and so this will change your velocity vector. If you move your mouse around, you will change your orientation. This can be seen in the polar coordinates on the left and in the Cartesian coordinates on the right, which follow the Y and X that you can see on the minimap. Now if you press S, you will start slowing down and eventually start going backwards to where the camera is facing. Here I picked up a power-up. Now this power-up can be of many different types, and this first one is a rotation. This power-up is a matrix which changes your X and Y components of your vector, therefore rotating. When you pass through a power-up box, you will receive a random power-up, and you can press K to activate it. After the vector cart left the mountain, it encounters a dot boost. Now this dot boost takes your velocity and does a dot product with the vector of the boost pad. And depending on the angle, your speed will increase more or less. So ideally, you would hit it head on, so the dot product is the biggest and not on the side where the dot product would be 0, or in the opposite direction where the dot product would be negative. It's also important to note that the way the boost works is by adding a velocity vector to your current velocity vector. Here the player encounters a patch of sand, which actually removes a predetermined vector from your velocity vector, slowing you down. And the arrow right ahead is an obstacle, actually. It's an orthogonal projection obstacle, since when you pass it, your velocity becomes the orthogonal projection of your velocity on the vector which constitutes the obstacle. It's important to face it in the right direction to keep the same speed instead of getting slowed down. And ahead is another type of obstacle, very similar, but this time it's a parallel projection obstacle. So all that this changes is the angle with which you want to face it. As you can see here, when the player entered the area of effect of the parallel projection obstacle, he came in at a 90-degree angle, which meant that his speed was reduced to, the projection, which is very small in this case. But right after, his vector and the parallel projection vector were parallel. They were facing the same orientation, and so his speed was able to stay the same. Here, another power-up is found, which is the transform. And as you can see, this time it made the player go way off track, but depending on your orientation, it could actually provide a very good advantage and decrease your time. Here the power-up we got was a unit vector, which decreases the player's speed until it reaches a magnitude of 1, which is what a unit vector is. This power-up is a 2-time scalar multiplication, which multiplies your current vector with a scalar, in this case 2. There also exists a 3 times scalar multiplication power-up if you're lucky. And as we get to the finish line, we see the mysterious plus or minus vector, which seems to have been worshipped by the vectors living in this realm. Oh, and you can also celebrate with some 2D normal vectors. In this case, these 2 flames are coming out of the vector cart at a 90-degree angle. And if you want to be really fancy, you can celebrate with a 3D orthogonal flame dance. To celebrate with the 2D normal vector flames, you must press N, and to celebrate with the 3D orthogonal vectors, you must press O.